Hey guys, Tzeentch here, coming at you with another codex review, and this time it's one I waited for a long time now. It's Chaos Daemons. Now there is already one codex out for Death Guard and Chaos Space Marines, so we have some good material mixed together here, which I'll also include, but mainly it's about the codex, obviously. The content of this review will not have anything about the models or the lore, because I think that's very subjective whether or not that's good and whatnot, and there's plenty of chains that do that job very better than me. So we will focus on gameplay and interaction, everything that has anything to do with the actual game itself. So I'll talk about rules for demons in general, which they added and what changed. And then for each Chaos God specific, I'll make a section that will talk about the demonic loci, Stratagems, warlord traits, hellforged artifacts, psychic powers, what unit changed, what got added, which abilities changed, and then also some of the interactions that are possible between the faction and other units in the codex. Alright, so first of all, every demon has to have an chosen allegiance, except Be'lakor. He's a very special dude, and he's kind of hard to include into any detachment because of that reason. I'll talk about that later, but keep this in mind when you try to run Be'lakor. So you have to give them the Nurgle demon or whatnot keyword, and that has some effects. First of all, obviously affecting your ability, but it's also a summoning restriction. You can only summon the same god of the summoner. So if you have a Nurgle demon summoning something, you need to have Nurgle demons, nothing else. And then there's an interaction with loci, because now there are demon detachments, which I'll talk about later. So keep this in mind. This has more impact now than it had before in the index. One word about demonic ritual. It was still unchanged, but as in my original review stated, there was not much that could interact with demonic ritual at all, and that obviously changed and is a big PowerPoint. So I'll pin these down here for you. They will come up in the review here and there, but I wanted to have some sort of a mashup of all of them. So you can still use your command reroll to roll one of the d6s. But now the Great Unclean One actually can run around with a Doomsday Bell, throwing 46 when summoning Nurgle demons, which is really, really nice. I mean, it increases the chance of actually getting big groups of demons in there. There is a new unit called Feculent Gnaw Molds, which allow you to reroll any of the dice, which is, in my opinion, even better, because it increases the chance of you actually getting something really good out there. And I mean, Feculent Gnaw Molds are accessible, no doubt. There is Soul Sacrifice, which is a stratagem which allows you to roll 46 for any demon, but has some disadvantages. There's the Demonic Pact stratagem, which gives you the ability to summon twice, which is also very valuable, obviously, because you only have to protect one character and bring in 2 units per round per one lost movement. So that's a very good one as well. And then we have Dark Pact and Plague Pact from Chaos Space Marines and from Death Guard, obviously enabling us to summon some more demons in here. And one of them allows us another reroll of any dice and no mortal wounds, in case we choose the right legion, that is. And Plague Pact in general allows us to roll 46 and no mortal wounds. So we have plenty of options now to actually increase the chance of getting big units in here. The chance to get low units in here is easy enough. And one thing I did not write down here, there is a lot of PowerPoint level changes, which I think are all beneficial for summoning, except maybe the Great Unclean One, for example. But obviously summoning big units of Nurgle is way better than anything else here, because you can see the majority here just impacts Nurgle demons. Alright. Now, how do we get access to what? So Chaos Demon detachments are now Battle-Forged Chaos and Demon faction units only. So in short, they talk about faction. You cannot include any guys with the demon keyword into your army, as far as I am concerned. They will affect them though. So that's a huge difference now. You can actually move some units into your army by adding Chaos Space Marine detachments, for example, or even Chaos detachments, but obviously you will lose a lot of the benefits. And that is important because the second one is called Demonic Loci, a Battleforge army only. All characters in Chaos Demons detachments, as stated above, gain a demonic locus so long as every unit in the detachment owes its allegiance to the same chaos god. So this is even more specific than the Chaos Demon detachment, because you also can't include mixed gods or even no god. I mean, if you put Be'lakor in any of these detachments, I think it wouldn't work, because he doesn't owe allegiance to any god, so it's not the same as the other ones. Maybe there's a FAQ that will state this, because right now that would be pretty crappy. Alright, then if we have this, we get Demonic Legions, all troops gain objectives secured, which is obviously really nice, because we have the ability now to get troops across the board. They are not very expensive and they have way more defensive options than they had before. Stratagems can be used if you have a Battleforged army and you include any Chaos Demons detachments, excluding auxiliary support detachments. So obviously there are some stratagems in here that will affect Chaos Space Marines and vice versa. So we can mix and match the stratagems as long as we include one Chaos Demon detachment and one Chaos Space Marine detachment, respectively. Same goes for Death Guard and whatnot. Warlord traits, you have to have a character of the demon faction that is your warlord, so there is not much here to choose from, and you only can choose the artifacts that belong to your god, obviously. I mean, that was clear. Hellforged artifacts require only a warlord with the demon faction keyword, and you give it to a demon character. Now that is interesting, because they can mix and match some artifacts here, as far as I know. But obviously the keyword is faction here, not demon, just demon faction. So faction is a little bit different. Not as easy to float some artifacts into the Chaos Space Marine book or something like this. And then psychic powers, psychers that can use powers from Tzeentch, Nurgle, or Slaanesh discipline can have access to those, which is obvious as well. Alright, so let's start with stratagems. This is stuff that all demons get, no matter Nurgle or not. And the first one is obviously the most exciting one, because demons do not have any abilities to deep strike until now. So Denizens of the Warp is 1 or 2 command points. Use the stratagem during deployment. If you spend 1 command point, set up one of your demon units that has a power rating of 8 or less in the Warp instead of placing it on the battlefield. So it's deep strike. If you spend 2, you get a rating of 9 or more instead. And at the end of any of your movement phases, you emerge and whatnot. It's the same rule as for everybody else, but it allows you to deep strike anything on the board. And now comes the point. It says you can choose a demon unit. It does not say anything about factions or whatnot. So you can actually include other demon-like creatures in your detachment. I would even argue the Avatar of Cain. I'm not sure if he still has a demon keyword, but it would be pretty funny to actually summon him in your Slaanesh army and let him go rampage somewhere. But in general, all the Chaos Space Marines, demons, and whatnot, you can deep strike those in, because it doesn't say anything about demon faction or something like that. I don't know. It's very interesting to use. Obviously, this is a big deal, because power rating 8 or less are a bunch of units available to you, which I already listed for you. And I also put some in there where the 9 starts, because it's a little bit vague, let's say, how this affects you. Alright, so let's have a look at the list. So for Khorne, we have a bunch of units in the 8 slot. We have the Skull Taker, Bloodmaster, whatnot. They're all these small HQs, even Karanak, by the way. Karanak got a great point cost reduction, will profit from this. But for example, 20 Blood Letters. The thing here is the 20, because this is where the extra attack for all greater demon units kick in, where they get to get +1 to the hit rolls, for example. So that's actually pretty scary. You can run these here, and there's even more interactions with the loci of Khorne, for example. Blood Crushers, not so much. Flesh Hounds are fast enough. Fury is the same. Skull Cannons, I wouldn't necessarily do it. And then comes the clue, you can summon in some Possessed. I don't know why exactly, but if you really like your Possessed, you can now make sure that they will reach the battlefield in time, and they will actually be able to get into close combat that one time. Simply because there is warp time and whatnot, you have some good possibilities to get these into close combat. And then the Chaos Lord on the Juggernaut of Khorne can also be teleported somewhere where you want to, because for some reason he gains the key word of demons because he's sitting on the Juggernaut. So as long as the steed is a demon, that's fine. Then there's some multiple things on 9. That's Demon Prince of Chaos, Forge Field, and Mauler Fiend. Those are the ones that you can summon in if you want to take 2. And then obviously every single Greater Demon and Defilers, whatnot. Everything can go crazy all of a sudden. But it will cost you the 2 points. So the other ones are much more spammable. So getting a bunch of Bloodletters into Deep Strike Reserve and summoning them in is really, really cheap in comparison to the other ones. So you have to make sure that whatever you want to summon in from the other ones actually does something for your class. And now if you go down the list, the same applies for Nurgle. There is some extra ones here, like the Blow Drones and Mephitic Blight Haulers. All this stuff can be summoned in pretty easily, which is interesting enough. Question is, do you want to summon in? Most of the time, no. But for example, Plague Bearers do not have any like severe damage threats in the sense, but they have a lot of synergy with a lot of stuff that you can do. So you can bring them in, and they will be where you need them. Same goes for the Horrors, because the Horrors have a new ability that allows them to shoot very well. So 20 Horrors is actually not that bad of an option right now. And obviously there is some benefits to getting in something else. And then finally Slaanesh, obviously great stuff, because one of the biggest flaws that Slaanesh has is the demon heads don't get anywhere. They get gunned down and whatnot, and they have the very powerful offense, but you have to get them into close combat. So these ladies all get +1 attack if they have 20 demonettes in their squad, so you can actually do some really, really nice shenanigans with them. Same goes for the bigger creatures, such as the Keeper of Secrets, because he doesn't have a way to get in. Same for Scarbrand, by the way. All the guys that can't get wings very easily can be teleported in instead, which is really, really nice. Alright, so much for what we can actually do. Remember, you can get unit with power rating of 9 or more. So the 9 is just the step where it gets more expensive. So at that rate, I would say 9 is probably not worth it. You can just take another unit that has more than that and be more efficient with your command points. Alright. Demonic Incursion, 2 command points. Use the stratagem when one of your demon units is destroyed by Grey Knight unit. So, in general, this is only good against Grey Knights, and that's it. But if you get it down, it's really good, because you can just resummon a unit. Pretty nuts, because it doesn't cost you any reinforcement points in a match play game, which is obviously what the demons were all about before. And then Soul Sacrifice. I already told you this would interact with Demonic Ritual. So you have to take D3 mortal wounds, but you can roll up to 4 dice rather than 3 for the summoning roll. And you reroll hit rolls for the summoned unit while it's within 6 inches of you. It's actually pretty funny, because you could do that with Horrors, for example, and try to get a huge group in there and just start firing at something. The only issue is it's 2 command points, so it's rather expensive in my opinion. The good thing about this is, though, it's not restricted to Nurgle or anything else, so keep this in mind when you review this, the strength of the stratagem. It affects everything, even Khorne units and whatnot. Alright. Stratagems part 2. We have the rewards of Chaos, which is the usual. You get a Hellfort artifact for 1 point, and for 3 you get 2 extra. Demonic Pact is 1 command point. You have to use this after a guy is summoned, and you can immediately summon another one. Really nice. I think for one command point, why not? You just you don't have to protect the character as much as you had before. You can teleport him in on next turn to start summoning 2 units at a time if you want to. So why not? Good stratagem. Demonic Possession, 1 command point. If an enemy psyker suffers Purge of the Warp, he suffers 2d3 mortal wounds instead of d3. That actually can hurt a lot of armies very well because not everyone has access to Pain. So for 1 command point, I really like it. I mean, they will probably try to cast something on you, and if they mess it up, you can punish them. Warp Search, 2 command points. At the start of any phase, select a unit of demons, and until the end of the phase, you cannot reroll saving throws for this unit, but its invulnerable save is improved by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Awesome, obviously. I mean, the question is it really worth it? But if you're expecting a lot of damage incoming, you can go with Warp Search and make the unit way tougher than it was before. And obviously this stacks really well with Disgustingly Resilient and other -1 to hit rolls or something like this, so you can work around a lot. And obviously, always keep in mind this is always demons, so this will affect everything else as well. So you can run around with your Defiler or whatnot. The maximum is obviously still a 3+, so it's not super cheesy, but it makes them really, really tough to deal with, especially because demon units in general do not have that high of an armor save. So the invuln save is everything you have, and at that point, it's really nice to have it +1. Alright, now interacting stratagems are already present, as I said. Chaos Space Marine stratagems would affect Demon Princes of Chaos, Possessed, Warp Tans, Mutilators, Obliterators, Forge Fiends, Mauler Fiends, and something like this. Which is obviously an interaction with the units that they already have. It's just interesting here to note because these are all units that could work together with your other abilities, so it would affect both, which is really nice. Same goes for Death Guard stratagems, just a little bit different. Alright, so now we go to Khorne. Khorne is the one that gets some really interesting changes in my opinion because they have more options now and more mobility. And Khorne is all about their close combat, so that is what he's looking for. Alright, so his locus is the locus of Rage. You can reroll charge rolls for Khorne demon units that are within 6 inches of a friendly model with the locus of Rage in the charge phase. So that one is really, really, really good. For example, the 20 Bloodletters that you just summoned in are 9 inches away. More than 9 inches actually. But they need a 9 to get in there. And obviously that's above average. It's not super likely. But you can reroll charge rolls. Is really good. I mean, you can reroll the entire thing and try again and try again. So it makes the summoning or teleporting down there or running in there with hounds more reliable. And there is a very high chance that there will be a chaos character around. Because these buff the Bloodletters, for example, and in that case, you run them together as you want to. So I think this is a really good change because Khorne demon units do not have much in terms of getting in there. But now they have a great option pretty much army-wide. Khorne stratagems. The Banner of Blood is another one of these. 1 command point, you can use a stratagem before the battle and you choose one of the commands with a demonic icon, which can only be Bloodletters or Blood Crushers. That icon is upgraded to a Banner of Blood, and in addition to its normal ability, you can charge 3d6 instead of 2d6. So that is one that you could think about. It's a 3d6 rerollable charge +1 if you want to and equip the unit properly. Deep striking in front of you at any end of the movement phase and then charging. That is a lot of angry Bloodletters in your face with a very, very reliable one. I mean, it costs CPs, yes, but it bends the rules of getting into close combat, which is really, really good for Khorne. And as he doesn't have any magic, this is even better. Alright, Locus of Wrath, 2 command points. Use the stratagem at the start of any fight phase and you select the Khorne demon character from your army. Until the end of the phase, you can reroll any fight hit rolls and for friendly Khorne demon units within 6 of the model. Nice. So actually we still have the old Locus of Wrath here. It costs 2 command points, but it has the ability to affect multiple units. So this is, I think, way better than the other ones like choose again to to fight another time or something, because the ability to reroll is actually really nice for demons because they have fewer options to get this effect in there. They have ways to increase morale and strength by their respective heralds and greater demons, but rerolling is only possible with a demon prince and only of the right alliance too. This one here will affect every unit that is Khorne within 6 inches. So I think it can be worthwhile, especially if you have a big brawl going on and you manage to get into close combat. Frantic Bloodlust, 3 command points. Use the stratagem at the end of any fight phase. It's like one of your Khorne demon units, and that unit can immediately fight again. Unfortunately, it's at the end of the fight phase, so you have to survive your opponent's attack. But on the other hand, if you're fighting for a objective, if you're fighting a very important fight, if you have a Bloodthirster or Scarbrand in play, he can deal tons of damage with one more round of fighting. Same goes for the set Bloodletter unit and whatnot. However, 3 command points is always mostly over the top. That's the issue. It's too expensive to just use it widely or something like this, or to make it really, really good. So I would say it's not useless, but it has to be situational for sure. Alright, Warlord traits. Each time an enemy unit fails a moral test with an 8, 1 additional model flees from that unit. Now this sounds pretty shitty, but as always, there is plenty of rules that allows you to reduce morale, and morale in general got toned down a little bit in this edition. So if you want to make a scary army with Night Lords and Slaanesh and whatnot, actually having an aspect of Death Warlord running around is really impactful, because 1 additional model flees from that unit can hurt elite units really, really well. I mean, there is a bunch of units that would definitely not like to use 1 model. For guardsmen and the like, pretty much useless. So very, very situational, but I can see use for this. Glory of Battle, +1 to your warlord's attacks whilst there are more enemy models. I wouldn't take it. Oblivious to Pain. Roll a dice each time you roll a wound, and you get 6+ Pheno Pain, but you can reroll all failed and hit wound rolls made for it until the end of your next turn. So that is nice. That is actually a really dangerous one. So as soon as he loses that 1 wound, he rerolls everything in close combat. That guy is seriously enraged. If you put this on the right one, he can deal a ton of damage if he gets that 1 lucky 6. Immense Power, +1 strength, can be good, depends on what war gear he has and what you're fighting. Devastating Blow, each time your warlord fights, you can make a single devastating blow instead of normal close combat attacks, and if it doesn't, make a single hit roll. If successful, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds. I don't know if it's worth it, because Khorne units have really, really good close combat profiles most of the time, so the Devastating Blow is probably not worth taking. And then Rage Incarnate. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Khorne demon units that charge this turn and are within 8 inches of your warlord when they fight. I mean, why not? It is very similar to a demon prince, and it affects all the units around you within 8, which is a good radius. The issue is that charge this turn. I mean, yes, you are charging most of the time, but it doesn't affect them while they are fighting and are stuck or something like this. So, can be good, can be bad. It depends on what you're trying to do, and depends on what you would invest with your units. Artifacts. 4+ invuln save, an attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each enemy psychic phase. Obviously, the psychic power is handy, but the best thing about this is the 4+ invulnerable save for free. Only affects Bloodthirsters and the like, but they really, really enjoy a good invulnerable save. And in addition to this, you can increase this to a 3+ invuln with the Stratagem. So, not bad. The Crimson Crown. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for a friendly Khorne demon unit within 6 inches of the bearer of the Crimson Crown, the model that made the attack can make immediately another attack, and they cannot stack. So, for example, we have that huge blob of letters or whatnot, or you have a you have a Khorne Greater Demon that has this ability anyway. You can stack even more attacks on top of this. So this could work very well, and it doesn't cost you anything. I think it's a pretty good artifact in general. And then comes Agath, the King of Blades, comes back to haunt some guys. Blade of Blood, Hellforged Sword, so most likely Heralds and the like. It's +1, -4 d3 to reroll all failed wound rolls for this weapon when targeting a character. But increase the damage characteristics to 3 if it's a monster. So Demon Prince, for example. Alright, it's good. The strength is not really that good, but you reroll wound rolls when targeting characters. So it's a very special blade, I'd say. Wouldn't necessarily take it because I like the other options more, I think. Skull Reaver. Core model with Great Axe of Khorne and whatnot, so it's again Bloodthirster's Demon Princess. Skull Reaver is melee +3 strength, which is much better in this case, -4 and d6. So that is a lot of damage, and then you reroll all fate wound rolls for this weapon when targeting a Titanic unit, which is not very likely, by the way. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+, for this weapon, the target suffers d3 mortal wounds in addition to the normal damage. I mean, it is pretty nasty. It is a very good close combat weapon, but I'm not sure if you would get this against a Titanic unit, specifically because there's not that much Titanic units right now. But I think it's a decent weapon. I like this because it has not much downsides to the normal weapons that these guys would usually have. But again, is it better than the armor or the Crimson Crown? Depends on your army composition and whoever is wielding this thing. Alright, so changes. Scarbrand got dropped 20 points, is now power level 18. That's what the numbers mean. He now has the Mighty Strike and Sweeping Blow possibilities. So instead of getting your big damage in, you can drop the strength down to your normal strength level. You get -2 instead of 4, and you get 2 hit rolls instead of 1 for each attack made with this weapon. So in short, if somebody is trying to blob you down with some sort of a tar pit, you can now attempt to slaughter them faster in case you are overqualified with your normal combat profile. That's pretty much it. It affects every single guy. It affects Scarbrand and it affects all the other Bloodthirsters as well. Now, the other thing is Deathbringer, which is a really good combination with this. Each unmodified hit roll of 6 made for Scarbrand's attacks in the fight phase scores 2 hits instead of 1. So that is amazing, because he gets to get more attacks with his thing. He gets to more attacks with his profile anyway, and he can go full enrage mode with scoring a lot more hits than before. And then finally, Rage Embodied got a little bit changed. Instead of not being able to fall back, they now have to roll 3d6, and the total has to be greater than the highest leadership characteristic to disallow them to fall back. So it's a little bit different than before. Before it was auto pass, but still, I mean, 20 points down, and now being able to summon him in wherever you want to is obviously massive. Scarbrand got way better in terms of combat effectiveness when compared to other Bloodthirsters. Alright, the next one did not get any point changes, is power level 17. They have the same Mighty Strike and Sweeping Blow ability, and also Deathbringers. The only thing is the Unfettered Fury guy now has 2 attacks finally, as all the other guys when he drops down to his wounds. More did not change as far as I know. Skulltaker is 84 points still, 5 power level, and the Slayer Sword is now strength user AP -3 damage, and any attacks with a wound of roll 6+ give you d3 +3 damage. So that sword actually hurts pretty much. That's all you can say about this. It really, really hurts you. And obviously he has some good synergies with units that get summoned in here. It's a major buff. The surroundings of this codex are a major buff for Skulltaker in general, I think. Before he was not really that good, but you have the ability to get him to the front now, and units he buffs are really strong. Alright, the Bloodmaster. Bloodmaster is another word for Herald now. All the Heralds got changed to other names. Don't ask me why, but they did. So, no point changes. Blade of Blood is now Strength User -3 AP D3 damage, and then 3 damage if you get a rune pool of 6+. And obviously that is a nice thing to have. It's just a plain buff for the Herald because it didn't change anything about him. Skullmaster is the exact same thing, just in this case riding, and then we have the Blood Throne, which is the same thing. As you can see, Blade of Blood and whatnot. Noting here is now they actually put it as I already played it, but they now have attendants with blood letters and whatnot, and they attack with the weapon below, so you don't have to look it up again. Not really a change, more a clarification in that case. Karanak dropped by 46 points. Guess what? Because he isn't really that good, he wasn't worth those points, but now he is actually a pretty cute unit that you can summon in and try to attack the character that you have chosen. And obviously he's pretty fast and everything. He's just got a major buff with this, and that means something because he wasn't that good before. Blood letters did not change at all in this case. As FAQ'd, they already cost 7 points, but they get buffed massively by getting additional movement. Blood Crushers, same thing, unchanged. Power level 8, by the way, so they still fit into your easy summon category. And then Flesh Hounds dropped 5 points for each Flesh Hound, which I really enjoy because Flesh Hounds, I really like running them, but they were rather expensive, to be fair, because their demon save is not so good in this edition. There's a lot of stuff that can kill them rather quickly. So I, in general, just a buffed. Skull Cannon, big point drops as well. 47 points less, power level 5, so rather easy. Skull Cannon now is heavy D6 instead of being D3 and then D6, whatever. So we have a much better profile now against vehicles and the big guys, because we could never ever get D6 shots against these. So in general, just more hits than before. Really nice. Nurgle. Nurgle has the Locus of Virulence. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for a Nurgle demon unit within 6 inches of any friendly model with the Locus of Virulence, the attack inflicts 1 additional damage. That's nice, because Nurgle is already pretty resilient, but oftentimes they struggle a little bit with dealing enough damage. So in this case, every single unit that you have would get more damage off in case they get into close combat and whatnot. And it just says make a wound roll of 6+. Doesn't say anything about close combat, so this would affect everything that is a Nurgle demon unit. By the way, including demon engines from other codices such as Chaos Space Marines and the Death Guard. So this is really, really fun in that case. And yeah, it's a general good buff. I mean, if it would only affect fight phase, it would be still okay, but not as efficient. And now it affects everything. Really, really nice. Nurgle Stratagems. Revolting Regeneration. 2 command points, and at the end of the movement phase, you can regenerate D3 lost wounds. And if there's no wounded models in the unit, that unit has suffered casualties, a single slain model from the unit is returned to play with 1 wound remaining. Alright, so you can revive something worth reviving, or in this case, just regenerate some wounds. Not sure if it's worth it, depends on the situation, but 2 command points is, in my opinion, a little bit too expensive. Plague Banner, 1 command point. Use the stratagem before the battle and you choose one of your Nurgle models with a demonic icon, which in this case is Plague Bearers and the flies. The icon is upgraded, and in addition to normal ability, once per battle, you can increase the damage characteristics of all plague swords carried by the bearers units to 2 until the end of the phase. Can be good, and in combination with the locals, you actually get to deal 3 damage a wound if you have the right guys around. So that could work. I'm not sure if I want to use a Plague Banner though. Really not sure about that one. I think the Khorne version is better because it is always a good choice. In this case, I would say you could do it, but you have to look at the enemy and see, do you need all the damage, or do you just overkill with the locus? All right, talking about locus, locus of fecundity, I don't know. 2 command points. Start at any of a phase. You select a Nurgle demon character from your army, and until the end of the phase, you can reroll disgustingly resilient rolls of 1 for friendly Nurgle demon units within 6 inches of that model. It's tricky. I always feel that rerolling just once is not really that much. On the other hand, it affects all Nurgle demon units within 6 inches, not just one. But I probably wouldn't use it. It's 2 command points, and you have so much good stuff to do with your command points anyway, that I don't think I would use this very often. So you have to make a huge chunk of units to actually make this work properly. Alright, Warlord traits. +1 wound as always. Why not? It's a decent one. Acidic Ichor. Roll a dice each time your Warlord loses a wound in the fight phase. So that's pretty often because you have a lot of wounds, but it has to be in the fight phase. And on a 4+ unit that inflicted the wound is splashed by Acidic Ichor and suffers a mortal wound. I think this can be, that has some, yeah, I don't know. It works very well on a Great Unclean One, for example, that you just drop somewhere in the middle and start summoning stuff, and then they would like to deal with you very much. If they don't have any close combat, this is obviously useless. But in the other case, he can actually dish out a lot of damage, since he has a big wound pool to chew through. So it's pretty likely that he would deal about, let's say, 6 wounds with this. So that's pretty much it. Alright, Blink Fly Hive. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target your Warlord if the attacking unit is within 7 inches. It would be better the other way around, but I don't know. I probably would not take this. Virulent Touch. Add 1 to all wound rolls made by your Warlord in the fight phase unless it's targeting a vehicle. Not bad, but you have to be in the fight phase again, and it's pretty hard to get there for Nurgle. Impenetrable Height, 4+ save. It depends. I mean, since your toughness is pretty high anyway, I'm not sure if the 4+ armor save would actually make much of a difference, because most of the weapons that would target you are AP1 or better, in which case your invulnerable save would kick in. So this save can be combined with the Fecundal Gnarmors, which give you cover +2, and in this case you can combine the cover save with the armor save to a pretty decent save in general on your big guys. So could be do some working there. Pestilent Miasma. Roll dice for each enemy unit that is within 1 inches at the start of your turn, and on a roll of 4+, the unit suffers a mortal wound. I don't like this. It requires a lot of enemy units around your Warlord to do this, and your Warlord has to be in the right position, and it is only within 1, so they are in close combat. That's too situational. Wouldn't take it. Alright, artifacts. Horn of Nurgle's Rot. D6 each time the bearer kills an enemy model in the fight phase, whilst within 7 inches of 1 or more friendly units of Plague Bearers. On a 4+, you can add a single Plague Bearer to one of those units. Useless. Why? The idea is cool, but you have to have reinforcement points in order to get those Plague Bearers. So no, wouldn't take it. The Entropic Nail. Enemy units must subtract 1 from their leadership characteristics while they are within 7 inches of the barrier of the Entropic Nail. I already told you, in combination with Slaanesh powers, in combination with Chaos and whatnot, you can drop leaderships really low. That's where you would use it, otherwise, no. Corruption. Nurgle model with Plague Sword, Base Sword, Blightblade, or Hellforged Sword. So pretty much everybody. Corruption is a melee weapon with +2 strength, -3 AP damage D3, and you reroll all failed wound rolls made for this weapon. It's actually a pretty nasty weapon, even if you put it on a pretty weak character otherwise, such as a Herald, for example. So why not? It doesn't sound too bad. Sounds better than the other two, to be honest. Psychic powers. Stream of Corruption. Closest enemy within 7 invisible suffers D3 mortal wounds if it has fewer than 10 models, or D6 if it has more than 10. So actually it's a smite with lesser range, because it is still the closest unit, and then the bigger they get, the better the chance of getting mortal wounds on them is. It is pretty simple. I would rate it too highly because it has very short range and it doesn't work when you get summoned in. Fleshy Abundance. Warp Charge 5, select a friendly Nurgle Demon unit with 18 inches of the Psyker, 1 unit in the regains D3 lost wounds. And that is the reason why I do not like the Stratagem, because this one is actually pretty easy to get off. D3 mortal wounds, D3 lost wounds is not bad, and I mean, you have Psykers anyway. I like this one. Can be very good and is more efficient on units that already have Disgusting Resilient, because they protect these wounds better than anyone else. Nurgle's Rod, Wartrap 7. 7 is okay. Roll a d6 for every unit excluding Nurgle units within 7 inches, and a 4+, the unit being rolled suffers d3 mortal wounds. Very situational, yet again. The AoE, however, is 7 inches and not close combat. And a 4+ d3 mortal wounds is not bad, but you would have to have a lot of single units around them to use this very well. Because there is something like Shriveling Pox. 6. Select an enemy unit that is within 18 of the Psyker invisible. Until the start of the next plague effect, subtract 1 of the target's unit's toughness characteristic. So good. Super good ability. Stacks very well with Mortarion. You can do some really annoying stuff with this, and allows all your lower strength guys, such as Plague Bearers, to gnaw at targets they wouldn't necessarily be able to hurt. So, good stuff. Virulent Blessing. Select a friendly demon unit within 18 of the Psyker and add 1 to wound rolls made for that unit in the fight phase. And 7+ inflicts double damage. So obviously, in combination with Shriveling Pox, for example, or if you want to have one of these, depends, you get a great effect. It's only in the fight phase, but it helps you dealing damage, which again I said is very good for Nurgle because they are so survivable anyway. Miasma of Pestilence. Select a friendly Nurgle demon unit with an 18. Until the start of the next plague phase, your tome must subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target that unit. Really, really nice on Plague Bearers, because you can put them into their +2 cover tree next to an objective, and then they also subtract 1 of hitting those, and then they are a big group which subtract another 1 of these from all hit rolls. So they can be very, very they can be made literally dirty, so dirty that you can actually see them. So that would be pretty nice for holding objectives, for example. Alright, Great Unclean One got changed. He got actually empowered increased from 77 points from his basic point level. He's 17 to summon in, so it's pretty hard to do it. However, he now has 18 wounds, so that's pretty massive. He's hard to just gun down in general. He's strength 7, 6, or 5 depending on his profile, and ballistic skill 3. He has a Plague Flame, which is a Soil 3 user -3 to damage, and excess damage from this weapon is not lost. So it's interesting. So you can whip some people, and in case you overkill them, you can just slap somebody else. Why not? You have the option of a By Blade, By Sword, or Doomsday Bell, which are a little bit different. The first one doesn't modify your strength, so you have strength 7. -3 AP, D3, you can reroll Fate Wound. And the By Sword is +1 strength, -1 D6. You can reroll Fate Wound rolls from this weapon. So obviously the By Sword has some benefits. However, there is the Doomsday Bell option that I already told you. The Doomsday Bell is really interesting because it allows you to summon Nurgle units much easier. And it is still a weapon that gives you +1, so strength 8, -1 AP, D3 damage. So it's not super bad by any means. The cool thing about the bell is also at the start of each of your turns, you may roll a d6 for each Nurgle demon unit within 7 inches, and any friendly Great Unclean ones with a Doomsday Bear and a 4+, a single model, Slain model is returned to that unit. Issue is, again, you're paying points. However, there is some units that you would actually want to return models to and not necessarily summon like tons of them in there. And you restore models with full wounds, by the way. So full wounds is not bad. I mean, it would work pretty well. I'm not sure about, though, if you would have to pay the points or not. It depends on how you go. But the summoning is actually really nice. Alright, so Putrid Offering gets it if he has a Bile Blade, so the worse version than the Bile Sword. You can use it to hook out a portion of its own rotting guts and an offering to Nurgle each time it attempts to manifest a psychic power, and if it does so, the Great Unclean One immediately suffers a mortal wound, which you can then try to negate, but you can add one to the psychic result. So that's actually pretty cool. It increases his chances of actually doing something, and he can obviously heal himself as well, so it's a really good ability. And then Crushing Bulk, roll a d6 at the end of the charge phase. For this model made a successful charge during the phase, and on a 4+, you can select one enemy unit and it suffers a mortal wound. Pretty much not really something I would go for and call it a great thing. It's probably something you would forget most of the time. But still, it's a pretty nasty unit now. He's actually a big greater demon now, just like the Bloodthirsters. It can deal a lot of damage, although it lacks the mobility that these guys have. And then we have Rotigus, the named Great Unclean One. He has Streams of Brackish Filth, 7 inches assault, 2d6 user, so -3 and 1. This automatically hits, and you rolled failed wound rolls. So actually very similar to the other close combat, range combat weapon from the other Great Unclean Ones. He has a Fanged Maw, so he has some more attacks than the other Great Unclean Ones because he can make d6 additional with this profile. And he has a Gnarl Rod, which is a melee weapon with +1 strength, -2 AP, and 3 damage. He can reroll with faint wound rolls, so pretty decent close combat. And then you also have some Nurglings that can attack. And his specialty is Deluge of Nurgle. Each time he successfully manifests a psychic power with a psychic test of 7 or more, the closest enemy to him suffers a mortal wound after the effects of the psychic power have been resolved. So he's supposed to be sitting right in the middle of the fight and just casting stuff. He can deny 2 psychic powers, and he has 3 psychic powers from the Nurgle discipline. So that's different. Everything else is just the same as a normal Great Unclean One. Alright, Epidemius now has a base sword, which is essentially a power sword, which is nice, and Epidemius obviously got buffed immensely because of the interactions that he gives with the Nurgle units. He has a great ability called the Talisman of Pestilence, and every unit that is Nurgle demons would be affected by him. I really like him, and just in case he dies, you can just resummon him in, because he's only 5 power level. Alright, now comes the Horticulus Slimeox. 165 points and 9 to summon in, so not that easy to summon. He's slow, but very nice in close combat. He's tough and has a bunch of wounds. His save is not that good. 4+ save is good for a demon, 5+ not so much. But he has disgustingly resilience since he is a Nurgle demon, so that makes him pretty tough to remove. He has Lopping Shears, so brings him up to strength 6, AP 3, D3 damage, and he can reroll failed wound rolls, so that's pretty decent, considering he has 4 attacks. And then he has a Mold Acidic Maw, which is 1 additional attack at melee with strength 7, -4 and 3. It's just actually his whatever that is, what he is writing. I don't know what's it called. It's called a mulch here, but whatever that's supposed to be. I think it's a big snail general. Here's a beast handler, which I really like because this is something we did not have before. You can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly units of beasts of Nurgle that are within 6 inches. In addition, you can add 1 to all hit rolls made for friendly units of beasts of Nurgle that are within 12 inches. So he's actually a buff creature for beasts of Nurgle, which I really enjoy because they are funny to use and they're not that bad, I think. They're pretty okay. Interesting enough, they have Attention Seeker, so they charge way more often than you would expect. So rerolling failed charges for these guys is actually pretty nice. And the +1 to hit rolls is also good because they don't fight that well in close combat. Alright, he has a Plowed Slime Trail. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit that falls back within 1 inch of the horticulous limits, and a 4+ the unit suffers a d3 mortal wounds. Very situational, but why not? In this, there is life. At the start of your turn, if any models, friend or foe, were slain during the last turn, one Nurgle demon model within 7 inches of the horticulous Slaanesh regains 1 lost wound. So interesting. So basically, you decompose fallen guys. Very fluffy rule, and why not? It's pretty good. It makes him more survivable in himself as well, because he obviously could also take the wounds back. And then another one, because he's not stopping, that guy. The Garden of Nurgle. At the end of your movement phase, you can add a new Feculent Gnarmol, which is a really, really cool thing, to your army, containing 1 Feculent Gnarmol, set up within 3 inches of the horticulous Smileworks and more than 1 inches away from any other models and terrain features. He cannot use this if you perform a demonic ritual. We will talk about the Feculent Gnarmol later, but let me tell you, for Nurgle, these things are really, really good. Amazing piece of terrain as well, but it is a very good ability in my opinion. However, you add this to your army, so you have to pay the reinforcement points for sure. 70 points, Poxbringer. You do know this guy. He's called a Herald of Nurgle. That's it. He has the same base sword that the other guys now have, and it has some some sort of a power sword with rerolling effect, so pretty nice. Now the Sloppity Piper. He's 60 points, so he's not that expensive, and 3 points to get in. He has a decent close combat profile. If we compare this to the other ones, it's actually pretty much the same. And he has a Marotta, which is a simply a normal weapon, but you can reroll wound rolls of 1. So he's not that good in close combat in general with his war gear. Not that much. But Disease of Mirth. Whenever a Nurgle demon unit takes a moral test within 6 inches of any friendly Sloppity Pipers, roll 2 dice instead of 1, discard the highest. And in addition, each time a unit fails a moral test from within 6 inches of this unit, an additional model is removed. So essentially, he's bringing joy to you guys, and he's scaring the other ones away with his terrible music. Very fluffy thing, I think. And then he has Jolly Gut Pipes. Add 1 to the attacks of Nurglings and Great Unclean Ones, which is really random. I mean, do they enjoy music more than the other Nurgle demons or something? I don't know. But +1 attack for those if they are within 6 inches, and in addition, they can declare a charge even if they advance in their movement phase if they are within 6 inches of the friendly Sloppity Pipers. So they really, really like it. They run faster and they get more attacks. So I don't know if this would affect much because it's a Great Unclean One and Nurglings, but still, it's actually a really fun unit, I think. And it's not that expensive anyway. 75 points, the Spoilpox Scrivener. Another one. It's all the Heralds of Nurgle today. So we have the same profile pretty much, and he has disgusting sneezes. So it's a pistol. 6-inch pistol actually, and we can reroll wound rolls, but it's not very effective. Distended Maw is melee user, so strength 5 -1/1. Reroll wounds of 1. Okay, but not super good. And then he has a Plague Sword, which is melee user 0. We can reroll all failed wound rolls, and that's more likely. I would obviously take the Plague Sword most of the time if I'm attacking. Here's a Stern Taskmaster. You add 2 inches to the movement characteristics of all Plague Bearer infantry units within 6 inches of one or more models with this ability. So that is actually nice. He's basically very similar to the other Beast Handler, just affecting Plague Bearers. And then keep counting. Meteor quota also is the same. You add 1 to hit rolls made for Plague Bearer units within 6 inches, which is nice. In addition, you make a hit roll of 7 plus for a Plague Bearer within 6 of 1 or more friendly models with this ability. You can immediately make another attack. So in this case, we have Plague Bearers that are faster, that deal more damage, that can deal even more damage, that get +1 to hit rolls, and produce more attacks. So in general, the Plague Bearers just got more aggressive in a lot of ways, if you want to go for it. I mean, you can summon this guy in pretty easily, and then your Plague Bearers will be able to reach something, maybe, because they're pretty slow. Only issue is, he's pretty slow himself, so he has to be careful that they do not run away from him. Alright, Plague Bearers did not get changed, other than what I already told you. They have some great synergistic effects this time, and otherwise are very easy to get in here. Nurglings now got pretty much fixed. They have to stay away 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone and enemy models, which was weird before. But they also cost 2 points left. So if you want Nurglings, great for you. You also have the ability to run a Piper and make some music for them. So there's more options here to take Nurglings, and obviously they get objective secure because they're troops. So great buff for them. Beasts of Nurgle got cheaper and now have 5 wounds. And they have a deadly slime tray. You roll d6 for each enemy unit that falls back within 1 inch of the unit, and then a 4+ unit suffers a mortal wound. This is actually pretty nice, considering they got the buff for themselves. They got cheaper and whatnot. They're just in general better right now, I'd say. They are power level 2, so you can summon in 4 of these before you actually have to pay the points to get them where you want to. So teleporting them is not that expensive. Plague Drones also dropped by 10 points, which is a lot. Their power level is still pretty high, but other than this, they were pretty much unchanged. Although they really like the majority of the changes that Nurgle gave them, because adding more damage and whatnot is one of their main jobs. Alright, finishing Nurgle, we now go over to Tzeentch. Tzeentch has the Locus of Trickery, which is actually a little bit weird. Roll 2 dice at the start of each fight phase, so nothing else, which is really bad, and discard the highest result. Until the end of the phase, each time your opponent targets a Tzeentch demon unit within 6 inches of a friendly model with this locus, and makes a hit roll that, after rerolls but before modifiers, matches your remaining dice result, that hit roll fails. I think it's weird. just straight up weird. I mean, it makes you more survivable, but it makes you more survivable in close combat. And most of the time, your demons are not that good in close combat because they die really, really quickly, and they don't have good anti-morale stuff anymore, so they run away rather quickly too. So yes, it is good. It makes you more survivable, but unless you have a really big monster coming in that belongs to Tzeentch, I wouldn't necessarily say this is super, super good. It's interesting for Magnus though, because it would affect him, as always. Alright, Stratagems. Blasted Standard. Use the Stratagem before the battle, and you choose any model with a demonic icon, in this case Horus. That icon is upgraded to a Blasted Standard. In addition to its normal ability, the power of the banner can be used once a battle at the beginning of any psychic phase, and when used, you roll 9 dice, and for each roll of 6, the closest visible enemy unit within 9 inches suffers a mortal wound. In all honesty, that is garbage, because it is I mean, there is 1.5 mortal wounds in here for 1 command point. No. And I wouldn't take a demonic icon with the most likely. Not that good. Magical Boon. 1 command point. Use the stratagem at the end of the psychic phase. Select a Tzeentch demon unit psycho from your army and immediately attempt to manifest an additional power this turn. Nice. Why not? You might need it. You might fail, and then you want to go for a smite or something. I don't know. There is a bunch of demons in this codex that can cast a lot of spells, and they have access to every single spell, for example, with Chaos Fate Reaver. But obviously, he cannot cast every single one of them, and you can give him the ability to get another one. Logos of Conjuration, 2 command points. Use the stratagem at the start of the psychic phase. Select the Tzeentch demon character. Until the end of the phase, you can reroll any failed psychic test made for friendly Tzeentch demon units within 6 inches of the model. That is really good. I mean, he is essentially buffing everybody else, not just himself. For 2 command points, not that bad, I think. If you have a very psycho-heavy army, that might actually be very useful. And in that case, obviously, the effect would be really, really nice to have when you stack them. Warlord traits. Born of Sorcery. +1 to the first psychic test by a Warlord in each psychic phase. Can be good. We will see that the psychic abilities you have pretty high cost, but not really that impactful, I think. Incorporeal Form. Reduce all damage inflicted on your Warlord by 1. That's actually really good for your big birds. And I could see use of this for sure. Warp Tether. You can reroll failed morale tests for friendly Tzeentch demon units within 9 inches of your Warlord. It sounds bad, but it's not that bad, because considering you have very few options with morale, this actually will give you some more sustainability if you actually have to go and take some losses, which you will. Lawkeeper of Tzeentch. Add 6 to the range of the first psychic power manifested by a Warlord in each of the psychic phase. Again, we will review this when we look into the range requirements. Tyrant of the Warp. Roll a dice for each time your Warlord suffers Perils of the Warp, and a 2+, he does not. It doesn't happen too often, and I don't know, it could be good, but I probably would take something else, something more offensive. Demon Spark. Reroll wound rolls of 1 in the shooting phase for friendly Tzeentch units within 9 inches of your Warlord. That's good. I mean, the Horrors and the Exalted Flamers and whatnot, Burning Chains, they all have some sort of shooting, other than the other Chaos Gods, for example. So this shooting increasing within 9 inches of your Warlord, why not? It's pretty good. It's good for a buff sit-back Tzeentch character. Something that maybe attempts to summon or whatnot. I can see use for this, for sure. Alright, the Endless Grimoire. The bearer of the Endless Grimoire grows 1 additional psychic power from the Tzeentch discipline. Nice. Why not? There's some good ones in there, and some very situational ones. It's always good to have some options, and always choose the best one. Soulbane. Only for heralds, so pretty meh. Melee media user -5 AP and no invulnerable save. So in short, almost no saves. It's a little bit gimmicky, because obviously a Herald of Tzeentch does not have very powerful close combat abilities most of the time, and I would probably not take it. The Impossible Rope. The wearer of the Impossible Rope has a 4+ invuln save. In addition, once per game you can reroll a single fate saving throw for the wearer, but if the reroll results in a 1, the wearer is immediately slain. Alright, so 4+ invuln save is always nice. Only issue is we already have Tzeentch units with invuln saves, and yeah, I don't know. It's okay, but it's not super powerful. Everstuff Tzeentch model with Sword of Sorcery or Staff of Change only. That is the big birds. Add 1 to the player's psychic test whenever it attempts to manifest Smite. Which in addition, by the way, has more range. So if you want to make your big birds better at smiting something, this is good. Otherwise, I probably would go with the Endless Grimoire instead. Or even the Rope. Depends. Psychic powers. And now back to the 7. Now remember something. Chaos Fate Weaver and the Lord of Change both have the ability to gain +2 to psychic tests. There's stratagems here, and there is some other stuff here. So keep in mind when you see these high numbers that they're actually not that high. It depends who casts them. And most of these guys are pretty decent at casting stuff. Alright, Boon of Change. Warp charge 7. Boon of Change has a warp charge of 7. Okay, we know that. Select a friendly Tzeentch demon unit within 8 inches of the Psyker and roll D3. And then you consult the table what happens. Now, something really interesting here. The +1 attack usually was meh. The +1 strength, good. And the +1 toughness, very good, because it makes it more survivable. But now there's a bunch of abilities that scale now with strength, so keep this in mind. The Boon of Change is actually better than before, because we have better close combat with Tzeentch now, and actually synergistic effects with additional strength, because it affects our flaming and flamethrowers and whatnot. Alright, Bolt of Change, really expensive. Select an enemy unit that is within 8 of the Psyker and invisible to it. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If a character is slain by the Psychic power, you can add a Chaos Bond to your army, which you will never, because you have to save points for it, and set it up within 1 inches. So, no. Just no. Because it is essentially a smite that's harder to get off, and the only upside is you can select something. So that's good. It's good for assassinating stuff. But, I mean, probably wouldn't take it. Gaze of Fate. It's Fate Weaver back again. Warp Shot 6, you can reroll a single dice roll during this turn. Wow, really good ability. I mean, rerolling anything is really powerful, and having this as a psychic ability, obviously great. Always have this on somebody. Treason of Tzeentch. You select a character. If you pay the 8 charges, which is pretty high, you have to be within 18 of him and visible, obviously, and roll 2d6, and if the result is greater than character's leadership, you can treat the model as if it was yours for everything that you want. The leadership thing is always wacky, really, really wacky, by the way. But you have abilities, as I already said. Tzeentch, Slaanesh, and Nurgle and the Chaos Wizards all have ways to reduce leadership. So you could actually make this really, really nasty, because there is some powerful characters out there, and obviously attacking with them against other ones is a big swing of tempo. Flickering Flames, Warp Charge 5. Pick a friendly Tzeentch demon within 18 of the Plague until the next Psychic phase. Add 1 to any wound rolls made for that unit's shooting weapons. As I said, you have great shooting now on almost all of your units, and especially big groups of horrors would like this very, very much. Infernal Gateway. 8. Identify the nearest enemy model that is within 12 inches of the Psyker and visible to it. That unit's unit and every other unit, friend or foe, within 3 inches of their model suffers D3 mortal wounds. Number of mortal wounds is inflicted D6 instead if the powers manifest with a psychic test of 12 or higher. Again, on the birds and Fate Weaver, maybe, but not that good, honestly. It all requires the units to be stacked up on top of each other to make the most of this unit. So against big blob of units, okay, but against a big unit, still useless. Alright, Chaos Fate Weaver got 30 points cheaper. Nice. So that's a ton of points in a demon army. He's still power level 19, so pretty hard to get in here. But obviously he has all the powers from Tzeentch, which is a major buff for him. And just because there were 3 before, now he has 6. So he has some good options. And a good stratagem to help him out casting these powers. Lot of Change got 20/25 points dropped. Depends on what war gear you give them. Same thing as with Chaos Fate Weaver. The Changeling got nerfed, sadly. He's still the same points, but the Locus of Transmogrification is now roll d6 each time a friendly Tzeentch demon within 9 of the Changeling uses a wound, and a 6+ the model does not lose a wound. So he now, instead of having this -1 hit aura ability, he instead has a 6+ Pheno Pain, which is still good, but probably not enough to include him in your army anymore. That depends really high on what kind of army you're running now. Blue Stripes were unchanged and are still probably not worth taking. Change caster is the same as before because it's just a herald. Fate Skimmer. So essentially 20 points more expensive. The Screamers now only have the Lamprey Bite, and obviously the Burning Chariot gets the 6 additional attacks from the Screamers with a pretty high profile, but they only have the Lamprey Bite left. This is actually a change for all Screamers, so if you see Screamers anywhere, that's how it is. Also note it's power level 8, so it's pretty easy to get in there. Fluxmaster is the same as before. It's just a Herald on disc, I think. And then Horrors. So Horrors now cost 8, 5, and 3 points, which means 1 point less for Horrors. They're still power level 4, and they have a very interesting ability. It's Coruscating Flames. 18 inches, Assault 2, Strength User. So increasing their strength increases the strength of this attack. Shooting attack. So they don't have to do Psychic all the time now anymore. And then we have another thing, it's a magical horde, so you change the type of the unit's Coruscating Flames to Assault 3, where the unit contains 20 or pink more horrors, which is something you can summon in right in front of somebody. So you can put in there a huge chunk of shots, right? It's 60 shots, if you want to. Just by putting out 20 horrors and summoning them, or even just dropping them with the deep striking. And then in addition getting +1 for a herald being around, and in addition getting our modification from the stratagem or the psychic powers. So really nice. Then the Magic Made Manifest means they can cast a psychic power, but it's only a single d6, and the smite is severely nerfed if you have 10 or less pink horrors in the unit. All the horrors are now in the same unit. They're not separate units, which is really a shame because they were really cheap to get. But you have to pay the points for each of these units, and just in case you want to use the split ability, which they still have, obviously. Unfortunately, the pink horrors have a robust save of 4, but blue 5, and Beware of Brimstone Horrors 6. So all the guys stacking Brimstone Horrors will be very sad now because they got severely nerfed. But still, I think it's an interesting choice that they made this some sort of a shooting unit. Flamers, Flickering Flames, 12 range. Hallelujah! Flamers can now finally deep strike and actually hit something. It's a pistol, so it's even better because they have pretty decent close combat profiles, and it is strength user, so you can actually buff them up, and the strength of the attack is increased. It's AP -1 as well, and it automatically hits. So obviously this is a huge buff for flamers in general. They didn't drop any points, so that's still pretty expensive, but considering they have now actually a use in an army, I like that. The Exalted Flamer got more expensive. He's strength 5 now, but his Fire of Tzeentch is very different because it has 80 range, heavy 3 still, but it's not D3. It's heavy D3 and now 3. +4 strength, because it's strength user, and that means it's strength 9 or higher, depends what he has. -4 AP, D3 damage. So he's a walking las cannon, essentially. The pink fire is a pistol D6, 12-inch range, so the same thing as the flamers, but it has -1 more AP. So great stuff. I think the 20 points are unfortunate, but he's a really good unit otherwise. He would be spammed all over the place. Screamers, unchanged, but they have no more slashing talents. Instead, they have only Lamprey Bite. Still very expensive though, and I'm not sure if that really helps them that much. The changes to Tzeentch are not that significant, I feel. The Burning Chariot also got more expensive because of the same reasons. It has strength 5 and the Fire of Tzeentch. So the Exalted Fire on top of the Burning Chariot is the reason why this changed. But in general makes this obviously better unit. Teleporting them in there Super nice, super easy to do, not that hard to summon. Why not? Alright, Slaanesh. Slaanesh has the Locus of Swiftness. All Slaanesh demon units within 6 of a friendly model of the Locus of Swiftness in the charge phase can declare a charge even if they advance in their movement phase. Nice. Slaanesh units are very, very fast, and advancing in additional is actually nice. The issue is they can't reroll charges still, so it's harder for them to get in, and it's harder for them to get teleported onto the battlefield and make it into close combat. However, there will be some options for us even there. So this is actually a really nice thing, because Slaanesh has some issues getting there and is rather squishy, even more so than all the Khorne and Tzeentch demons. So this is actually a really good locus. Alright, Stratagem, Locus of Grace. At the start of any fight phase, you select a Slaanesh demon character from your army, and until the end of phase, each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for any friendly Slaanesh demon unit within 6. That model that made an attack can immediately make another attack. Actually really funny, if you have a big blob of demonites, they get 3 attacks / 4 attacks for the Alluris, and that means they have a huge volume of attacks. So the Locus of Grace for just 1 point, which is really inexpensive in my opinion, can make good use of that. I like it. Could be worthwhile using. Aura of Acquiescence. I don't know. Hard to say. 1 command point. Use a stratagem at the start of any fight phase. Select a Slaanesh demon unit from your army. Enemy units within 3 of enemies reduce their attacks by 1. Nice. That is a really good option if there's something in there that can hurt you. And just in general to increase the survivability what you have. Rapture Standard. Same as before, you can take a demonic icon, yada yada yada. Once per just before the Bearers unit fights, you can reroll all failed hit rolls made for the Bearers unit until the end of the phase. Now that is actually nice, because the Rapture Standard is actually worth taking, because you need to get additional charge distance with your demonites and whatnot to make it into close combat. And obviously re-rolling makes it even more effective because you have your rending attacks. Obviously only affects 1 unit, but it's only 1 command point. So it's rather cheap to use. Why not? I would take this if I would take a demonic icon in big groups of units anyway. Warlord traits. +3 to your Warlord's movement characteristic. Actually really nice, because there is some massive range on most of your vehicles. So you can go up to 17 inches plus D6 advance, maybe rerollable, depends on what you have. And then you can still charge. So 3 inches goes a long way in reaching close combat with your Slaanesh Warlord. Quicksilver Duelist, you can reroll failed hit and wounds rolls for your Warlord, but only against characters. Meh. If your Warlord charges in the charge phase, add D3 to the attack characteristic until the end of the ensuing fight phase. I mean, pretty okay, but pretty situational. Fragile Caress. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ in 4 phase, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. Can be fine. Issue is you have to have a lot of attacks in order to make this work. There is some Slaanesh HQs that have a lot of attacks, but not that much to go off on a 6+. Savage Hedonist, +1 attack. Okay, but not as impactful. Bewitching Aura. Enemy units subtract -1 from the attack's characteristic to a minimum of 1 whilst they are within 6 inches of your Warlord. This does not affect enemy vehicles. Great. Just straight up great. It affects everything if you are close enough. It doesn't have to be in close combat either. I don't know. I think it's a very good debuff in general. Artifact. Forbidden Gem. Once per game at the start of any phase, the bearer of the Forbidden Gem can use its harp inside a single character within 12. Roll D3d6 and yada yada yada. So essentially, you can disable a character for the entire turn if you break the leadership. Problem is, you have to have an army that reduces leadership. So this is the common thing with Slaanesh for some reason, but they always have to do something with morale. Alright, Mark of Access is just +1 attack each time you kill a character or monster, but also +1 just in general. So not bad. Not bad, not super good. Soul Stealer. Only Wit Stealer or Hellforged Sword. So this affects the Keeper of Secrets and also the Demon Princess of Slaanesh. And it's +1 strength, -3 and 3 damage, so decent profile. Each time a model is slain by this weapon, the bearer regains 1 lost wound, so really good against hordes because it makes them more survivable. And you reroll all failed wound rolls made for this weapon when targeting an Aldari unit. So, I think it's pretty decent. I mean, I would probably take this one. It has a good close combat profile, and regaining wounds on monsters is actually really nice. If you combine this with Pheno Pain of some sort, pretty cool. Slothful Claws, only for Slaanesh Heralds. Slothful Claws are melee +1 strength, -2 AP, 2 damage, and each time you make a wound roll 4+, not 6+, so super rend, that hit is resolved with AP -4. Interesting. I think it's not that bad. If you don't want to run a Demon Prince or a Keeper of Secrets, this might be actually something you could give to your heralds. Psychic Powers. Cacophonic Core. 6, so easy to get. Roll 2d6, adding 2 to the result if the psychic test results was more than a 10. The closest enemy unit within the 18 of the Psyker suffers a mortal wound for each point that their total exceeds their highest leadership characteristic. So Psychic Scream, essentially. Just worse. But as I said, works with morale, doesn't work with anything else. Symphony of Pain. The nearest unit that is within 18 of the Psyker is struck by unbearable pain, and they must subtract -1 from all hit rolls made for this unit until the start of your next psychic phase. Very good. It's just a straight up debuff that you can cast on somebody. Works well in general, I think. Good one. Hysterical Frenzy. 8. So pretty hard to get off. Select a single friendly / demon within 18 that is within 1 inch of an enemy unit, and that unit can fight as it were the fight phase. Now this can be very strong, and at the same time it will not arise very often. That's really unfortunate in my opinion. It has to be a unit that has already made it into close combat. It has to be a unit that did that in the last turn, and the enemy can't fall back. I don't know. Unless you have some really good synergize with Fiends, which would let nobody run away, they all have to stay. It's not that good, I think. Too expensive and too situational. Although really good if in the right situation. Delightful Agonies. 5. Select a single friendly / demon unit within 18 inches, and to the start of the next phase you get a d6 chance to not lose a wound. Nice. Just in general a good one. Makes your units more survivable, which is something that Slaanesh not always has. Pavane of Slaanesh. Select an enemy unit that is within 18 inches, roll a d6 for each one in the unit, and the unit suffers a mortal wound for each roll of a 6. Unless it's humongous blobs of orcs and Asymmetram dudes, this is very unlikely to deal much damage. And might as well use Smite, I guess. I don't know, I wouldn't take it most likely. Phantasmagoria. 6 charge, and enemy units must subtract 1 from their leadership characteristics until the start of the next Psyker phase while they're within 12 inches of the Psyker. Again, great if you're running a leadership characteristic reducing army, being able to reduce leadership pretty much to 0, and then make everybody run away, doubling their losses essentially. Otherwise, wouldn't take it. But it's an AoE effect, so pretty nice in that case. Alright, the Keeper of Secrets got unfortunately not changed, still very expensive, but the Wit Stealer Sword is now subtracting 1 from hit rolls for a model that has suffered any wounds from this weapon. Not is still alive and whatnot, it's just and suffered any wounds, it takes -1 hit rolls. Nice. And then Mesmerizing Aura, your opponent must subtract 1 from any hit roll in the fight phase that target this model. Nice. So makes him more survivable in close combat in general. Really cool. Mask. Oh yeah, by the way, deep striking. Keeper of Secrets really like deep striking, and they have to have them, otherwise they don't get across the field fast enough. The mask has now Serrated Claws, which makes her a little more powerful in close combat, and obviously no point changes, still the same. Herald of Slaanesh has Ravaging Claws, so also a better weapon than before, and other than this, not much changed about her. Demonids, as I said, major buff to them because of the summoning ability. The standard is nice, the rerolling is nice, everything is better for these girls now. Fiends pretty much unchanged, still very good because they allow you to keep your opponents in close combat, but other than this, nothing. Seekers got changed because obviously they had the ability to advance and charge. Now they just simply reroll fate charge rolls. Nice. Seekers are pretty expensive, but being able to summon these guys or girls or whatever they are in, and then being able to run a huge rampage across the map is really good, considering they are one of the only units that can actually reroll fate charge rolls for Slaanesh in general. They cost you 6 power points, but obviously make the group large enough, and the 2 command points will be worthwhile for sure. Hellflyer gets 5 attacks now, which is good because it is already pretty okay and makes it stronger. No changes. Same for the Seeker Chariot, still cheap as hell. And the Exalted Seeker Chariot got plus 8 points. Why, I do not know. Now the weapon skill goes from 2 to 3 to 4 instead of what it was before. So in general, a buff, by the way. Nerf because of the point cost, but absolute buff because you actually can get into close combat with these things now. Alright, and that's Slaanesh for you. Now we go to the neutral and various. Be'lakor is 40 points more expensive, going up to 280, power level 14. He has no changes to him whatsoever, unless you call him getting a own psychic discipline. So he now has a discipline called Dark Hereticus. Somebody remembers, but it only includes Infernal Gaze, Death Hex, and Gift of Chaos for some reason. But whatever. Infernal Gaze is essentially a selectable smite. Other than this, is pretty much the same. Death Hex is really powerful. You select a unit within 12 of him, and they cannot take any invulnerable saves. So really powerful against certain units that rely on their high invuln saves, such as Hammer-Nators. Gift of Chaos, select an enemy model within 6 inches of Be'lakor and invisible to him, roll d6. If the result is greater than the target's toughness characteristics, the unit suffers d3 plus 3 mortal wounds, so a lot. If a character is slain with power, you can add a Chaos Bond, which you would never do because it costs you a reinforcement point. Yeah. Alright, Gift of Chaos is actually pretty good because we have the ability to give -1 toughness with the Nurgle spell. We also have Mortarion floating around somewhere, so we can get some synergistic effects there. And d3 plus 3 mortal wounds is a ton. I mean, that's really good. And it doesn't say a character. You can select any model that you want. And I don't know. Seems to be pretty decent against a lot of things that walk the earth, because mortal wounds are really nasty. He is pretty expensive still, but I mean, rerolling hits for all demon units pretty much is pretty nice. I'm just not sure how the hell would you get him anywhere into a game without losing your entire detachment rules. That's the really annoying thing about him. I would probably take him as an auxiliary or something. I don't know. It's a little bit odd, to be honest. Demon Prince of Chaos. Remember, there's 2 kinds of Demon Prince. There's Demon Prince from CSM and then this one. This one doesn't have a Warp Bolter anymore. Feels Batman. And other than that, they are pretty much unchanged. They didn't change the point costs, and their power level is 8. So they're pretty decent summoning targets now, to be honest. Are they 8? I'm not sure about that one. Okay, Furies dropped in points, and that's good because Furies are still meh units, but they are better now than before for sure. I mean, getting some Furies in there might be finally an option, but probably would still run with the blood letters and whatnot. Furies are just not having a very good time, but they are at least cheaper now. They were way overpriced and super useless before, and this is certainly a buff to them. Soul Grinders also got a good buff because they now have 5 attacks, which is great, and then Flank Bombardment is heavy D6. So same thing as with the Scout Cannon, way better against big targets that they want to fire at. And obviously Soul Grinders have some great synergy with the buffs that apply to shooting and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, they generally did not get any worse. Their power level is 12, so not that easy to get in there, but just in case you want to run it, you could probably now teleport it in and actually attack something. So the entire codex in general is a buff to close combat demon engines because you actually get somewhere where you get to attack. And especially if you can take the common version because you get to reroll charges. That's amazing for a soul grinder, for sure. You can just get in there and do your job, finally. And now the Feculent Gnarmors. Those are fortifications, by the way. 50 points, 3 power level. And they have a bunch of abilities, as you can see. So, first of all, it is a terrain creature that cannot move or can do anything. It's just a terrain. It's exactly treated as one. Really nice. All demon Nurgle units except vehicles and monsters get plus to their cover saves if they're within 7 inches. So not bad. Might be actually useful in case you have an armor save. Sickness Blossoms. At the start of your turn, roll a d6 for every unit that is within 3 inches of any Feculent Gnarmors. On a 4+, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound. But on a 6, it suffers d3. Nurgle units are not affected. Nice. So that's actually just a cool effect in case somebody tries to crawl into your trees to attack the demon Nurgle army, and I don't know. Good effect. The Plague Bell Chime. Nurgle demons units that are within 7 inches of Feculent Gnarmor at the start of their turn can shoot and or charge this turn even if they fell back or advanced. Nice. So it makes your units in general faster. There's not that much shooting going on, but if there is, and if the Great Unclean One does something, he now gets to move and do anything if he wants to. Great. And then Conduits to Nurgle's Domain. You can reroll any of the dice used in summoning roll when a Chaos character from your army that is within 7 inches of the Feculent Gnarmor attempts to summon a unit of Nurgle demons to the battlefield using a demonic ritual. Nice. Really good. I think it's a great ability, and yeah. Obviously, these things do a lot for you. They're not that expensive, and then there's the trick. You can actually actively summon them with one of the with the Hortilux slime or whatever it was called, and get these things where you actually want them. I like it. I think it's a very interesting unit. It looks beautiful. It's very fluffy to just rot some piece of terrain with Nurgle's presence, and I don't know. I like it. Really good one. Alright, that's it. It was a long video, I know, because it is a Demon Codex, and obviously I didn't review even all the units in general. I just talked about the changes to the index version and how it works. However, I feel there is a lot of good changes in here, and there's some very interesting concepts you can run now with the teleporting coming back for the demons, and obviously a great buff to all of the close combat units that are in the codex. They inserted some really, in my opinion, not that powerful but still interesting characters that actually grant us some synergistic effects with units that weren't there before, and we certainly have a lot of options. So in general, I like the codex, and I think you would enjoy it too. So thank you for watching. I hope you had fun. If there is anything that is incorrect about this, just post it below, but please always include a page, because it doesn't affect me if you just write anything down there, as long as we can't figure out where it's located in the codex or whatever. So please, if you do it, put something down there where you get that information from, and not just the fact, because I can't prove it unless you have a page. All right. Other than this, leave a like if you did, subscribe to the channel. I'll do further reviews when I have the time, and we will see what comes up next. I expect some no more releases this year. And as always, to the end, happy wargaming.